So welcome you guys. This is our yen flow for this week. We are going to do a flow, and I know sometimes when we land on the full moon like we are today, sometimes I go strictly yin, but I actually want to do a little bit more in our practice, even though we will steep in some yin poses. So we'll get a little bit of a blend. Um, I had already mentioned before I started the recording, we were going to use at least 2 blocks. So have the 2 blocks available, and I'll meet you on the mat and show you what we're going to start with. So I thought for today, I think last week we actually worked on hips and hearts. I can't remember exactly, but I'm thinking we did. And today we're kind of focused on the same thing, but with some different poses. So you guys are familiar with the back bend that we do with the blocks. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do it actually. So we set it up kind of like a T, one on a tallest height and one on the middle height. However, you can also take it down a notch. So meaning you could take the tallest one on the medium height and you can take this shorter one down another level. So it's not as bold of a back bend. And it also depends, right, with the center block, how it fits with your body. This first one should line up in between your shoulder blades at the area behind your heart, and then your head will rest on the taller one. And then notice where the block lands in between the shoulder blades, which allots and allows for the front side of the shoulders to lean back. So I'll let you set up. In that shape. With your legs extended. And then you can determine, does it feel better to have the legs together or apart? Let your eyelids close. Notice how the center of the chest is able to open and expand as you breathe. So one reason I want to focus on the hips and the heart today is due to a reading I'm going to share with you in the beginning. The second chakra is a place where we accept who we are. Because the Sanskrit translation is one's own seat or one's own abode. And we need self-acceptance in order to practice self-love. But self-love is an aspect that concerns the heart. So I'm reading this new book based on a shaman's kind of view of life. And there's this one little reading that's entitled Self-Love that I want to share with you. Self-love is acknowledging ourselves through creation. It means that we recognize our own value as a byproduct of our own existence. Self-love should never be confused with arrogance, but instead looked at as a humble act. Self-love is the understanding that we matter because we are, and not because we're rich or famous or successful or appear a certain way. when we truly love ourselves, we can then open up to loving God, the divine, or source. And this is because when we are in love with ourselves, we tap into divinity, the divinity that animates our life and all of life. People who love themselves are holy because they feel no separation from God, source, or the divine. So in essence, loving yourself can be an act of worship and a form of prayer. So I've often looked at yoga as being like a physical prayer. And we often call it meditation in motion. So let's set our intention to improve our self-acceptance and self-love so that we can tap into the divinity that animates all of creation, celebrating that we are each a unique expression of the one. Give yourself a breathing treatment for the remainder of the time here. Creating a rhythmic breath, developing more depth to the breath. So the breath can connect you to that piece of divinity inside. Realizing there's no separation. When we experience the state of union, we are in the state of yoga. On your next in-breath, let's walk the feet back. And as we exhale, open the hips and bring the feet together. Now, if there's too much sensation piping up through your inner thighs, you can slide the feet more forward. Give yourself a little relief. Either way, just let the knees spill towards gravity. If one becomes problematic, you can always elevate that knee up. And just focus on the singular side until you're ready to enter back into both. So I'll often say breathe up into the heart and down into the belly. But for today, I want you to breathe up into your heart and down into your hips. On your next in breath, let's go ahead and uplift the knees. Slide your legs out in front. Bring the hands closer to your body. Peel the backside of the head off the floor, and then use your hands and upper body strength to come right on up. Now, you may or may not need your blocks, but if you want to set them towards the front side of the mat, they're there if you need it, because we're going to come up to stand any way that works for you to the top of your mat. When you come to the top, look down at the feet and solidify them down into the floor, and feel when you do that how your knees and thighs get more active in the front. Take your arms to the sides and up overhead. Now, if you need to keep the hands apart for your shoulders, that's okay. But if you want to join me in upward worship, place your palms together overhead. Remembering what that author or shaman suggested, that when we practice self-love, it's a form of worship. It's a form of prayer, not in an egoic sense, but in a place of humility. So feel the feet on the ground, lift the fingertips skyward, and if you're in upward worship, feel that activation in the upper back. As you exhale, let's go ahead and let go through the neck, bringing the hands down through the middle. Go ahead and hinge over from your hips, softly bend your knees, continue to fold. Relax the arms, collapse the head and the neck. And be here now. Now you can always grab a hold of your elbows if you want to make it heavier or to go a little deeper. Otherwise, you can just hang with me and ragdoll. The eyes can be open or closed, but typically in Yin, we encourage eyes to be closed because it's meant to be more of an internal experience. So I'm going to give you some quiet time to go inward. On your next inhale, feel free to use blocks, but we're going to be coming into a crescent lunge. So if you step back with your left foot, float your hands up, bring them to your waist or hips, and softly bend your back knee, not anything really deep. And then we're going to find our balance and extend the left arm upward. Now, if you're struggling with your balance, I don't suggest you do any more, unless you want to come down to your back knee altogether. If you're feeling pretty stable and steady here, let's go ahead and extend up through the left side body and maybe strike a little bit of a back bend. Nothing too dramatic. But notice just lifting the left arm helps to create more of a hip extensor experience. Arching back can deepen it. Now breathe. Again, you can be on your back knee, you can have the hands on blocks or the floor, or you can be on the back knee, bring the spine erect and do like the half form of what we're doing here. So just know there's options. We're gonna go ahead and bring the hands down to the floor and we're gonna step back to plank. When we step into our plank position, we're gonna just send the knees below the hips, untuck the toes, the right arm's gonna cross in front, and we're gonna extend the left arm out and come to a half melting heart variation. So meaning the belly sinks, the back can bow. Your left forearm can touch down. Let the left side surrender and let the right side be supportive. And try to always work left to right in yin. It's okay if you do it the other way around, but the left side's the lunar side, the feminine side. So this is good for opening up, flushing out the lymph nodes around the pit of the arm, draining lymphatic tissues in the chest. And promoting support for the white blood cells. Feel free to make the breath audible like a whisper so that you can meditate on its sound. On your next in breath, let's go ahead and climb back to tabletop. The left hand slides back, we prop onto the right hand. We're gonna shift the hips forward into up dog, curl the toes, and sail back to downward facing dog. Now notice the difference here between down dog and that melting heart pose. We're trying to prohibit the bowing in the back, which means as we press into the mounds of the hands, as we shine up through the hips, we're also allowing the ribs to cinch in, the belly to hug in, bringing support to the back. And we'll take that sequence to the other side. So let's inhale, step the left foot through. Give yourself a helping hand if need be. Stabilize with blocks if you need to with your hands first. And then you can lift them onto your waist and erect the spine. Little soft bend in the back knee, nothing very extreme. And then notice this hip extensor as you lift the right arm. Maybe lifting and up through the floating ribs, maybe striking a back bend. If you feel really wobbly, you can go ahead and lower the back knee. If the arm elevated is too much for the iliopsoas, you can take the hand back to the hip or half namaste at the heart.
Exhaling. Let's all bring the hands down. Step back plank. Holding the plank. And then spilling down through the knees, shins, feet. Left arm crosses in front. Half melting heart with your right arm now extending. Surrendering to the right side, being supported by the left side. Softening the face. Purifying yourself with breath. Breaking down any boundaries or barriers you've built around your heart to promote more self-love. Self-love, which means we are really loving the creation of God or the divine. Inhaling, we're going to slide the right hand in, come back to tabletop. Same approach here, rocking forward like an up dog. Rock and rolling back, the down dog. Applying some weight in the forward part of your hands, the balls of the feet. And sending the energy up into the seat, up into the sacrum. Now let's travel the feet forward to the top of the mat, taking the weight off the hands along the way. And this time we're going to structure the legs. We're going to keep them nice and firm and fold into what we call Uttanasana, the active variation of this pose. Inhale, prop the hands to the shins, come halfway up. Exhale, drop back in. Inhale to upward worship. Pausing, holding, breathing. Taking care of this body that we're creating this steeple for now is an act of self-love. Exhale, let's bring the hands down through the middle. We are going to hinge from the hips and we are going to put that little bend in the knees. And we're coming back to the yin form, which is dangling pose. So feel free to kind of dangle your head, give a little nod, give a little wiggle to the shoulders. How well can you loosen up here? And maybe it's just loosening up your attachment to a thought streaming through your mind. We've been having to be a little bit more particular with our pranayama in the studio through this pandemic. And now that the numbers are heightening again, I'll only suggest people breathing out through their mouth if they're face down, where it's not going to be, spreading through the room. But really, when you're in your home, like you are now, you can do those cleansing breaths anytime. Forward folds are a good moment for it. But you can also do it in other postures. Let's take one now. Breathe in through your nose and audibly out through your mouth. All right, on the next inhale, we're stepping the left foot back again. Feel free to stabilize with the blocks on the way up. We're taking the hands to the hips like we did earlier. Except this time, instead of just lifting one arm, we're actually going to lift both, lace the hands, place them back behind your skull, splay the elbows wide apart, and lean the head into your hands. Again, if you need to lower the back knee and do this from a half lunge, that's okay. Give yourself permission to practice self-love. Exhale, let's release. Inhale, step to plank. Be in plank. And then drip to the knees, untuck the toes. Keep the thighs perpendicular to the floor. And this time we're gonna slide both arms out. Anahatasana, melting heart. We all went through science class, so remember we would study solids, or certain solids can turn to liquid, can turn to even condensation, right? So think about any density, any hardness of the heart getting softer and softer like putty. And then imagine the putty turning into a pool of water. Even the condensation that can come from that as it turns into more of a gas. And the heart being connected to the air element. Inhale, pull up, hands align underneath the shoulders to rock forward to up dog, to sail back to down dog. And from your Adho Mukha Svanasana, this time we're gonna take it to the right. So let's step the left foot through. And that way when we rise up, we'll focus on this right hip. At first, just find your stance. And then once you have your balance, lift the arms, lace the hands, drop the head, open the heart. Let's release the hands, step it to plank, Pause here, keep your belly nice and snug. Exhale to the knees, untuck the toes, slide your arms out, take melting heart one last time. Now remember, you can rest on chin or forehead, depending on your facial structure, depending on, where you can more easily breathe, but also thinking about the condition of your neck. And applying all that is practicing self-love. I'm excited. A couple weekends ago, I went back into the studio and recorded some new moving meditations. And the first album that's going to come out in a month or so will be Spirit. And there's a theme through that one based on the color gold. But the second one that hopefully will be out by the end of the year is going to be represented with pink. And it's based on principles of love, and that we have a limitless amount of that love. All right, inhale, table. Rock the hips forward, take up dog. Exhale, roll it back down dog. On your next exhale, instead of coming to the top of the mat, we're actually lowering the legs back down. And I'm gonna turn this way to face you. And you're gonna wanna be sideways on your mat like this. And okay, this gets a little tricky when you're on a hardwood floor, but we're separating the knees really wide. You're turning your feet out. And you're gonna land down onto Sphinx arms like this. This is called one of the frog poses. Now, I don't have a bolster, one of those square bolsters handy right now, but we have done this with the bolster. So if you feel like this is just incredibly intense, use a prop. And if you like the intensity and want a little more, you push your hips back away from your hands. I wouldn't suggest too much of that because this is a lot. Let's just hold it like 3 to 5 more breaths. And let's go ahead and bring one foot in and actually just come out the best way you know how. I brought one foot in and then stacked onto the hands. And then I'm taking the weight off the opposite knee and sinking back down to a hip. All right, so I'll let you choose how to get in this shape now. Again, you may want to be sideways like I am on the mat, just so that your heel is padded. And take one leg out to the side.
And the opposite arm of the straight leg, you're gonna lift up and you're gonna curve over. So basically making a, a side stretch. So really the hand can slide towards the foot. The hand can also just be here. The one on the bottom doesn't really matter. The top arm can be a C curve. The top arm can be elongated, depending on if you want to be active or passive. Same with the foot, flex for action, passive for yin. You can do a blend, it's okay. If that top shoulder gets weary, you can just lower the arm. Now let that top arm release. And let your chin spill down. This is just helping us to target some different pockets of fascia, some of that connective tissue that holds everything together. You'll experience sensation in some different regions. All right, inhale when you start to lift your head up. Don't come up all the way because you're going to take this free hand that's been at the bottom to the opposite side of the straight leg, and you're going to rotate, rotate, rotate around with your belly and back. Now to begin, you just kind of flop over. To be active, shoulders back, belly in, toes up. You can pick one or the other. Slowly slide the hands back and unfurl the spine. Oh, that can get deep. We're gonna reverse the leg position. And we'll start with the side bend. So the opposite hand of the straight leg is gonna be up overhead, and you can curve towards the straight leg. And again, this hand at the bottom can slide forward. It can just stay where it started, or you can turn it back towards the other foot. Top arm curved or extended. Just kind of play with it. See which one serves you well today. that top shoulder gets a little weary, you can drape it down ahead of time, but we will get there eventually. Let the top arm hang down. Let your chin drop down. Now we'll lift the head first. We'll separate that other hand to the opposite side. And then we're gonna churn the belly and fold down. Inhaling, stepping the hands back and unfurling the spine. All right, we're gonna come out of that and we're gonna locate onto our backs. And I want you to take, your left ankle over the right knee, pick up the foot, thread your hands behind your leg and draw in. Now the right foot can just flop since we're approaching it the passive way. So sometimes we need to clear out those self-deprecating thoughts so that we can return to self-love. Sometimes we need to let go of our old stories or past events, or the shame or the guilt that we tend to hold in the hips, so that we can come back to not only self-acceptance, but self-love. This is a theme we can revisit over and over again as a good remembrance. But I wanted to use that passage I had read because I'd never heard it quite
that way. When you love yourself, you are in essence loving God and His creation. Let's take another cleansing breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, and pull in a little bit as you exhale. And then release. Now, when you release the right foot, go ahead and cross your left leg completely over the right. Fan out your arm shoulder height. And then we're going to carry the knees actually to the left side. And you'll notice you may even land on the left piriformis. But we're also trying to stretch out the QL muscle on the right side of the low back. Even though we're getting a twist, that's not really our primary emphasis here. So you can just keep your head in stillness. Inhale, turn the knees up and uncross. Now take your right ankle over the left knee, pick up the left foot, thread your hands behind, eye of the needle pose. If you ever go through a phase that, it hurts or doesn't feel right to hug in this manner, you can always stand your left foot onto a block or the floor. Now let's release the left foot to the ground, cross your right leg over, fan the arms open, and let your knees roll right. Just so you know, when we exit this one, we're gonna go into the deeper twist, and you can keep your legs crossed the way that they are now. But if that depth of the twist is too much, please uncross the legs. Inhale, let's lift the knees. Hover the feet and let the knees roll back to the left. This time your head can turn because we're going and allowing that twist to move up the spine. So you can turn your head left or right, doesn't matter which direction. Now let the knees come back. Uncross, recross, and take it to the other side. We're going to end today's practice with a counter after these twists. So let's unroll, uncross, and hug the knees in. And we're going to go a little deeper. So lift the feet, grab the feet, separate the knees, take happy baby. If you don't want to go this deep into your hips, you can go back to that other position of hugging the knees in. Just a few more breaths. And then release the feet. We are ready for Shavasana. So if you want to come back onto the blocks and maybe turn the blocks a different height, or maybe you want a bolster, or no props at all. So set yourself up. Make sure your mind and body agree. Before we bask in some silence, I want you to affirm mentally to yourself, I love myself. I love the divine spark within me. As I love myself, I grow to love God more. I know that loving myself is a humble act. I love the divine creative expression of who I am. And blaze the symbol of the heart in your mind's eye. Meditate on this symbol that represents love. Take a cleansing breath, breathing in, letting it go. Inhale, stretch your arms overhead. Exhale, draw the knees in. Rolling to one side. Coming up to take a seat. Sitting upright. Excuse me. Hands together. Om, om, om. And we all walk away from this practice feeling more at home and at peace in our bodies, hearts, and minds. May we be willing to practice more self-acceptance and self-love. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste.